This is the very beginnings of Radium 3. Now, what we do at Singularity Computers is obviously build custom PCs, and Radium 3 has become so customized that it's moved completely away from its Radium roots. You know, we allow people to customize Radium as much as they want to. And so I'm not even sure I'm going to call this a Radium. I think it's going to turn into something else altogether. So what we have here is not the usual pile of components. That's actually just over to my right. We have the beautiful Corsair Crystal 570X, which has tempered glass on, well, most sides. All sides except for the rear. And interestingly enough, we're going to be doing a custom paint job, and you're probably thinking how when it's all glass, but there is actually still quite a bit of chassis in there. It's just you don't really notice it because it's mostly black. Well, we're going to be painting it in a pearl white, so it's actually going to stand out quite a bit. So this is the case completely stripped down. The only thing that I still need to remove is this little Corsair logo, which has some lighting in behind it. So this is all there is to this case. I mean, obviously there's the outer glass panels, but it looks like there's a lot more. But there's just the mid plate, power supply shroud, we have the bottom panel, the top or front panel, and the rear, and then the top or front panel. I'm not sure which is which, they look so much similar. But all of this is done with big pressing machines. And, you know, there's no machining, there's not even any laser cutting. These are just all punched out and, you know, then they're pressed. So they can be pumped out very, very quickly in huge numbers using this kind of manufacturing technique. There is some swaging, some folding on some of the edges, like around here, so that it's not sharp, because the steel must be below 0.5 of a millimeter. I mean, that there, yeah, that's about 0.5 of a millimeter. Probably 0.6, it's probably not metric. Very, very thin. And because it's so thin, they have to have these corners to reinforce it, to hold it together, which means there's so many rivets holding this thing together. There must have been nearly 200 of them. It's just, maybe not that many, but there was a crazy amount of rivets. You can also see that where it joins, it's not painted because they paint it after it's assembled. And that's why I pull these things apart, because even though it's never going to be seen, I can't handle having this dodginess underneath my paint jobs, in my builds. Rust like that. There is absolutely no way I want that in my build, anywhere near my build. So all of this needs to be completely stripped. I've completed the sanding, surface preparation and primer for the entire case. And I'm now about to start on the base coat. Now, there's actually a couple of other jobs that I'm doing here. There's actually about 4 of them. But the Corsair Crystal 570X is the one over here in this corner, minus those 2 black panels actually. Now that the custom paint is complete, the first thing I'm doing is installing the Aquero 6 XT, which also has a heatsink, which is an add-on for the Aquero 6. And I also have the black faceplate, which is another add-on because it comes with a silver faceplate. And I'm installing the Aqua Computer Fubwork, which is the Aquabus version. There is also the Bluetooth version. So this is the only mods that I'm doing to this case. Just a few holes to be drilled and then a big hole for the face of the Aquero 6 XT. So you can see the components that are going into this build. Again, it's another high-end build. We have the Rampage 5 Edition 10, which is just an incredible board. I really love this board. It reminds me of the old days when I first started my channel. And I think back then I had a Rampage 2 Extreme. I think actually one of the first videos I made was on the Rampage 2 versus the Rampage 3. But I didn't even say anything. I just made this terrible video. And, that's how I got started. But, the fun I used to have back then, it was awesome. Because at that time, I was going for world records, like performance world records in the Future Mark Hall of Fame. I don't know, just good memories. Like, the direction that we're heading is totally exciting and awesome and, makes me really happy. But it doesn't mean that I'm not going to look back and the fun that we've had in the past. But definitely an amazing board and something that I really enjoy playing around with. I mean, I'm not trying to make you guys jealous or anything. I'm sorry. But yeah, it's just part of the perks of the job. It's a lot of hard work, but definitely there are the payoffs, the good parts of it. You can sit there burning your fingers for like a week doing cables, but then when you get to play around with hardware like this, it makes up for it in 10 seconds or something. So we have a couple of relatively new parts that I haven't really used much before. This is the new style EK GPU water blocks and also the EK RGB monoblock for this motherboard. And this is the first time I've used this water block. I've used the nickel Plexi version, but I really like the look of this. I'm usually into acrylic water blocks because I like to be able to see the coolant. But I think to go with this build and the black and white theme, the monoblock is really going to go nicely. And the white case is going to help the RGB lighting to really pop nicely. So I think this water block suits the build fairly well. I'm going to do our very first component guide. Our components have been out there for a bit over a year now, and by popular demand, I'm going to start doing guides. I promised you guys so many times. I'm sorry it's taken us this long. We have our reasons, obviously, but it is definitely time. We have a responsibility and it just has to happen. So for our Protium DDC pump and reservoir combination, first of all, you need to remove the stock cover from the DDC. There are 4 bolts, sometimes they're hex, these days they're usually Torx. Make sure you have the right tools. The pump is kind of hard to get out of the cover. Don't go levering it with a screwdriver or anything like that. Usually there's a hole in the bottom of the pump cover where you can easily push it out, but you do need to push quite hard. And the pump can go flying, so make sure you're close to a soft surface for it to land on. This is a good time to sleeve the cables while the pump is out. Make sure you keep the stock O-ring. Install the thermal material which comes with our Protium DDC mod kit. Also install the O-ring, although this is only needed for older DDCs, but just install it anyway. It fits onto all of them. Then slide the configuration into our Protium DDC pump cover. Make sure you don't forget to install the stock O-ring between the pump top and the pump. Then there is 4 bolts to attach the pump with the cover directly to the pump top. They're M4 hex bolts. Now both our D5 and DDC pump tops have a lid. So you just unscrew the lid to install the reservoir into the same thread. The tube just threads straight into the pump top. We designed our components so that you didn't need 6 or 7 different components to make up a combo. You only need 2 components for our DDC and 3 for our D5. So it makes it simpler, but there's also no, hidden extras. The pump doesn't come with our combo though, just like many other combos that are out there. The reason for that is we like to give you as many options as possible. So I'm now installing the front radiator with the pump and reservoir combos installed. It's really good to be able to install all of this outside of the build because there's not a lot of space, and actually in this case it is so tight that the reservoir on the inside is actually resting right up against the case panel. It only just fit, and actually it was a little bit difficult to get the bolts to line up. They were perfectly aligned when it was touching, but yeah, it is just so close. So lucky that it actually fits. Now you can see that this case only fits a 240mm radiator on the top panel, which, for me is a bit of a shame. For water cooling, I would really have liked 2 360mm radiators in this case. Not that you can't modify it, but still. Now for storage in this build, we have a Samsung 960 Pro 1TB M.2, 2 Samsung 850 Pro 1TB SSDs, which are going in RAID 0, they haven't arrived yet, and a Western Digital Red 8TB hard drive. So that's almost all of the components in the build now, and it's ready to start building the dual loops. But that will be in the next part of the build log. Thanks for watching, and remember that none of this would be possible without our customers and our patrons.